So now we'll look at translations in the coordinate plane. If we recall from our previous day of notes, a translation is a rigid transformation in which all of your points slide or shift the same distance and direction. So if we're looking at this image, if we connect any pre-image to the image, they did P to P prime and Q to Q prime, but this would work from B to B prime, A to A prime, and C to C prime. P to P prime and Q to Q prime are going to be the same length because it has to be the same distance, and they're also going to be parallel to ensure that it's the same direction. The translation rule can be written in two ways. The first way is called coordinate notation, and the reason it's called coordinate notation is because it tells you what happens to the coordinates of the point. The other notation we just call shorthand notation. So coordinate notation will be X, Y, and this arrow means maps or yields, and it'll be X plus H, and then Y plus K. In the shorthand notation, it will be a capital T with a subscript of H, comma, K. If H is larger than 0, which means it's positive, it will shift to the right because H impacts X and X goes left or right. If it's less than 0 or negative, it will go left. And if it is 0, it will not horizontally shift. Since K is attached to the Y coordinate, it will make it shift up or down. So if K is greater than 0 or positive, it will shift up. If it's less than 0, it will shift down. And if it is 0, that would be no vertical shift. So we are going to translate triangle ABC 2 units to the right and 4 units down. The easiest thing to do is to just count. So if I start at A and count 2 units right and then 4 units down, that puts me at -1, -2. For B, if I count 2 right and 4 down, that puts me at 3, 3. And for C, if I count 2 right and down 4, that puts me at 6, -5. Now, when you graph these points, you do want to label them. Remember, you want to differentiate between the pre-image and the image. So the images are going to be A prime, B prime, and C prime. Now, normally I would use a ruler, but I can't really do that here. So I'm going to do my best to connect them. It doesn't look too good, but I think you get the overall idea of what I was doing. And then we're going to write the rule. So I gave you the rule on the previous slide, but here's really what I want you to focus on. Look at the X values that you were given, and then look at the X values after you translated to the right 4. What you should notice is that all of those X values are 2 units bigger. So when we write that rule, it always starts with X, Y, and then yields or maps. All of our X values increased by 2. And then let's take a look at all of our Y values. All of our Y values decreased by 4, and that's because we went down 4. So we would write Y minus 4. And that is your rule in coordinate notation. All of your X coordinates increased by 2 and your Y coordinates decreased by 4. In shorthand notation, we use a capital T and then do a subscript of 2 for H because it went 2 right, and then -4 for K because it went down 4. Let's try another one of these. This time we are going to count 3 left and 2 up. So start at A, count 3 left and 2 up. Let's try to get it correct here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So right here, it's A prime. That's at -6, 4. And I'm going to go to B, 1, 2, 3 left, 1, 2 up. It's right there at -2, 9. And then C, 1, 2, 3 left, 1, 2 up. So C prime is at 1, 1. Again, when you're doing this, you should definitely use a ruler to make a nice shape. So when we write our rule and coordinate notation, we'll always start with XY maps, and then what happened to the X values. If you look at the X coordinates, they went from -3 to -6, or 1 to -2, or 4 to 1. All of the X coordinates decreased by 3. That's because you went left 3, so your H is -3. And then for your Y coordinates, you went from 2 to 4, 7 to 9, -1 to 1. All of the Y coordinates increased by 2 because you went up 2, so K is 2. For shorthand notation, capital T, and then a subscript of -3 for H, a comma, and then 2 for K. Right, on here we're just going to describe what is happening. So for the first one, it is translating, and X minus 11 means left 11 because H is negative, and then Y plus 5, that's going to move it up 5. On B, another translation. Translations always have addition or subtraction in them. There is nothing on the H, so that means it's not going to horizontally shift at all. You don't need to say that. You can, but you don't need to. And Y minus 1 is going to make it go down 1. On C, another translation. Obviously, these are all going to be translations because that's what we're talking about, but when you take your quiz, you take your test, they're going to be all mixed up, so you need to make sure that you tell me what type of transformation it is. Your H is 7, that means it's going to go right 7. And your K is -8, that means it's going to go down 8. And then finally, for D, it's going to translate X plus 3, that's going to make it move right 3. And then just Y, that's not going to move it up or down. So you can put no vertical change or no vertical shift, but you can also just say right 3. All right, for our last one, we're using the graph to describe the transformation between the image and the pre-image, and then write your rule in 2 different formats. So one of the most important things you need to do with a problem like this is make sure you correctly identify your pre-image and your image. Remember that the pre-image will just be like normal letters, and the image will have the primes. So this one right here is our pre-image over on the right. If you get these confused, you're going to get your direction wrong. So make sure you know which one's your pre-image. So all you need to do is count how much it takes for you to get from A to A prime. Make sure you don't go to A to C prime or something like that. You got to make sure you pick the same letter and just count. So it's definitely a translation. Everything is sliding or shifting. And we are counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to the left. And then down 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's your description. Your rule and coordinate notation. Because you are going left 10, that's going to be X minus 10. And because you're going down 4, Y minus 4. In shorthand notation, nice big capital T, subscript of -10, comma, and then that K is -4.